Welcome back to another episode of Bigfoot Society. We've got a special members-only episode for you today where I talk to Joseph and Christen from the Choctaw Bros Podcast all about the strange things that have been happening around Lake Texoma on the Texas-Oklahoma border. If you're on the public feed, you're about to hear a 10-minute teaser for this, and if you're in the Patreon or YouTube channel member section, tier 2 and above, you're about to hear the whole thing. Again, I appreciate your support. You're welcome to become a member by going to patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society or hit join in YouTube. Thanks for listening. Let's get on with the show.
So this kind of falls within March of this year. Because I have family there still, so I do go visit Durant and the Texoma area quite a bit, especially when I get time off. Usually I like to visit my uncle. Even going into another part of Oklahoma, like 40 minutes down the road, Tishomingo. But so we were coming back, and before I start this, let me bring this up too. That might make more sense for people listening to. Is that during this time period, it was such a weird time period for me because I was going through a lot. Like, you know, I had some series of fortunate events and going through a mental health journey and so bringing that bad I had that bad aroma already on me. And so for those familiar with these beings, like that's kind of what they look for. They prey on, essentially. And so we were leaving my uncle's place, which was kind of on the outskirts of Durant, kind of near Colbert. And it's like a RV park, you know, the nice little setup there. It's almost like its own community. And so we were leaving there and we're crossing the Denison. Like once you pass the border, there's like a railroad track and then you kind of pull into Denison, the Eisenhower State Park. You can see that it's got its own little side site. And as we're passing it, I look to my right-hand side and just for a brief second, I would say maybe even half a second, I look, and it looks in the middle of broad daylight, something tall and almost wolf-like creature. And obviously, in a split second like that, it's just, you know, that's what. And I to kind of further that, I know these beings appear in different variations, but that's kind of what I saw in that split second. And as you know, I didn't talk about it for until we got closer to Gainesville. That's where it kind of felt like, okay, maybe I can ask again. My sister's with me, and I had asked her, "Did you?" And I didn't even get finished the sentence. She was like, "Yes." So here's where it gets a little more. I wouldn't say scary, but more the lines of like this thing followed me back to Fort Worth. And the reason why I know this is because at that time as we got back to my house, I've actually, like in this dinner period too, like I'm not doing great on top of I took off for work. And so when I come back to my house that night, it was conclusion that, you know, my mom and my sister were going to stay with me. And this was a night to remember for everybody. So when we got back, my mom and my sister had to go back to their house to go get clothes. And it just felt like the environment was off to the point, like you felt some heaviness around you, on top of you, even around my house. And while they're doing this, while they're going to the next town over, which is about like 15 minutes, the husky stays with me. And the husky, when he stays at my house, he's very calm, very relaxed, and just, you know, he's just chilling. But that particular night, he's staying close to my hip, like as if something is wrong or something is, you know, he's on alert. And typically, his favorite spot around my house is to sleep in the living room area and just right under this vent. But this wasn't the case this time. When he keeps guard and he keeps looking at. He first lays around my bed, which I have my room has a back door as well. It's kind of creepy, but he's laying on my bed to the point where he can watch the front door, which is on the opposite side of the house, and it's kind of it's a half glass door, half regular door, I guess. So it just has that little rectangle square for glass, and he stayed put there until till my mom and my sister got back. But where it gets even creepier is while I'm over here, my mom and my sister are going to their house and just picking up things, just what they need for the night, and to continue from there. But they didn't tell me this until the next day. But when they got to their house, there are some weird things going on there too. My mom went inside and my sister stayed in the car, and no one was at the house. My stepdad was working late at night. He's a worker for the city, so there was he was on call that weekend or that week. And while my mom's in the house, she's picking up some things, and she says all of a sudden in my sister's room, which is kind of like pretty lengthy distance from her room, she hears some shuffling in the room, and she also hears like a laughter, like somebody's laughing at her, and in that aspect, which is also not out of the realm for these spiritual beings when they're doing like mimicking or mocking. And while she's doing that, she looks up in the doorway, like something told her to look in the doorway, and their door is kind of different. It's got like kind of that glass top where it's like almost like I'll say rainbow shape, like, and it's just that little piece of glass at the top, and then everything else is like a wood door and metal door, whatever you want to call it. And she looks at it, and she says it appears to be looking like a face is near this left-hand corner. And I want to ask her if she still has the pictures, and maybe I can send it to you later on. But in that, because I've seen the picture, in that corner, it looks like there's a face peeping down at her. And just, it kind of makes sense with everything going on right there. And so, which freaked her out, and immediately she grabbed her stuff and kind of ran to the car. My sister kind of asked her what's going on. She didn't talk about it for a little bit. And so as they're coming back to my house, and I live, I don't know if anyone knows where Lake Worth, Texas is as well. Home of the Goat Man. Another story for another day. I've never counted the Goat Man, but as in my little area, it's kind of secluded from the city. It's not exactly out in the country, but it's also like a little one-off from it. And while they're driving, my mom talks about what she's seen. And as they get closer to my house in the neighborhood, all of a sudden, for some reason, like they said as they were driving, the trunk just randomly pops open, just at random, which, obviously during that time when you're driving, you have to either press the button or, have to physically open it. And so that caught them off guard for a minute, and they stopped and did the trunk so that way nothing falls out, none other stuff falls out. And as that happens, my mom looked out in the woods that was similar to, it's right near my house. My whole house is surrounded by woods in a sense. She looks in there and she sees the same thing that I saw, which is that dog-like creature, just kind of peeping out in the woods. And again, she runs to the car, tells my sister to take off, and they're like maybe like 2 minutes away from my house, and they pull up to my house, and things just kind of continue to get weirder.
Please take a minute to help out the show by subscribing on YouTube, making sure you hit the bell so you don't miss any notifications, and share the episode on YouTube with a friend. Also, if you're listening to us on a podcast, thank you so much. Make sure that you're subscribed, share the show with a friend. Really, it's all about sharing the show wherever you can. If you've had a Bigfoot encounter related to the following or know someone who has, please reach out to me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com or pass on my email. Here's the list. I'm very apprehensive to ask for this because the last time I did on TikTok, I got overwhelmed. But if you've had strange things happen, especially Bigfoot related, in the Lake Texoma area of Texas and Oklahoma, please reach out immediately to me, bigfootsociety@gmail.com. A special thank you to all the Bigfoot Society Patreon and YouTube channel members. It's your support that helps keep the show going, and I extremely appreciate it. If you want to join in the fun, you can join over at patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. I'll see you there. And again, thanks for listening.
Her and I can get on here and we can tell our stories. Maybe there's somebody else out there listening that's too afraid to tell their story. Maybe this will give them the courage to come out and not feel so bad about it. Who cares what anybody thinks? I know what I saw. I know what's out there. That's all I care about.
Please let people know. Please let them know. If you ever see one of these things, you need to tell. Because if you don't, then shame on you. You know? Shame on you.